Ms. Jory, I neglected to ask you a question concerning the last page of the contract between Mr. Jackson and Conrad Murray. At the bottom of this contract on page 6, there's a portion that reads, "The undersigned hereby confirms that he has requested producer to..." Thank you. Ms. Jory, can you read the line on the bottom of page 6 that begins "the undersigned"?
Yes.
Would you read it out loud, please?
Yes. The undersigned, that's Michael Jackson, hereby confirms that he has requested producer to engage Dr. Murray on the terms set forth herein on behalf of and at the expense of the undersigned.
And then it has Mr. Jackson's name and by and a line. Is that line for Mr. Jackson's signature?
Yes.
And once Mr. Jackson signed that, would that be completion of the contract?
No. All parties had to sign the contract. And while Michael Jackson wasn't a party, there was a provision in the contract that explicitly required Michael Jackson to give written approval of the terms of the contract and stated explicitly that neither of the parties, which would be GCA Holdings and Dr. Murray and AEG Live Productions, neither of those parties would have any rights or obligations to each other unless and until the agreement was signed by Michael Jackson.
And this section reflects that the agreement would be between Dr. Murray and Michael Jackson for the contract services, correct?
Not exactly correct, no. Michael Jackson was giving his consent for AEG to engage Dr. Murray and GCA Holdings to perform medical services for Michael Jackson at his request and at his expense. But legally, it's an independent contractor contract between AEG Live Productions, Dr. Murray, and GCA Holdings with the consent of Michael Jackson.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Jory. I have nothing further.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Brazell. People's Four has been removed. Cross-examination. Mr. Flanagan.
Good morning, Ms. Jory.
Good morning.
When was it you were first provided any information about the necessity of there being a contract?
To my best recollection, it was in May. It was in the latter part of May. Mr. Woolley let me know about the need to have this contract prepared.
And when did you first prepare the first draft?
The first draft was not completed until June 15.
Okay. Did Mr. Woolley give you the terms?
He did.
Did he say the terms were $150,000 per month?
He did.
And he gave you the length of the contract, and that was at that point in time September to March?
No, the length of the contract, I don't recall that he gave me the length. I drafted the contract so that it would run to the end of the first leg of the concerts at the O2, which would have been through September 30th, 2009.
Okay, and it was supposed to start May 1st.
I subsequently learned that the payments had been promised, I was told, as when the contract was signed, to be retroactive to May 1st.
Okay, so the contract was apparently never signed?
The contract was not signed by all the required parties.
And no payment was ever made to Dr. Murray?
To the best of my knowledge, no payment was made by my client anyways.
In the contract, the gross compensation to Dr. Murray was $150,000.
Correct.
But he had to provide for himself and for AEG certain items of expense that were not reimbursed to Dr. Murray. Isn't that correct?
I don't know for sure, Because the contract also provided accommodations for him and his family, airfare to and from London, accidental insurance, health insurance, that AEG would provide him with the medical equipment that he requested and that was approved. So I'm not sure of what expenses he would have incurred, sir.
Well, there was no provision for ground transportation in London.
That's correct.
There was no provision for transportation that he incurred here from Las Vegas to California. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Dr. Murray was also obligated to provide general liability insurance
That's true.
in the sum of at least $2 million.
That sounds right.
And
I would need to look at the contract to be
that would
certain.
be commercial general liability,
Yes,
business auto liability,
correct.
and his own car,
Of course.
workers' compensation insurance,
Yes, and
and
medical malpractice as
he
well.
also had to provide his own medical malpractice insurance.
He did.
Do you know how much those insurances would cost on a monthly basis?
Altogether, no. I don't know.
Now, the cardiopulmonary resuscitation unit, when was that provision added?
That provision was in my very first draft.
So right from the very beginning, Dr. Murray was asking for that.
He identified it as equipment that he would request.
Did he also refer to it as a crash cart?
Not to me.
That equipment, was it your understanding, was not going to be provided for Dr. Murray until AEG had signed the agreement?
It was my understanding it wouldn't be provided till we got to London because that's when he asked it to be provided. And presumably the contract would have been signed by then.
Wasn't this equipment supposed to be provided during the term of the contract?
No.
Doesn't paragraph 3.3 say producer shall provide Dr. Murray for his use during the term with medical equipment requested by Dr. Murray to assist him in performing the services as approved by producer? The equipment will include a portable cardiopulmonary resuscitation unit, saline, catheters, needles, a gurney, and other mutually approved medical equipment necessary for the services.
But the term wouldn't commence until the contract was signed, and he told me he needed the equipment in London.
Did you talk to him before you drafted the first draft?
I did not.
And in the first draft, you knew that there was a request for cardiopulmonary resuscitation unit.
Yes.
Well, then you got that information from someone else, and it was supposed to be provided during the term of this agreement, wasn't it?
No, and I'm happy to explain.
The first time you talked to Dr. Murray was at the 18th,
Correct.
and the cardiopulmonary resuscitation was already in the rough draft?
It was.
So it wasn't put in pursuant to your request, to Dr. Murray's conversation with you, was it?
No.
You were told by Tim Woolley that he needed this.
It was in the list of equipment provided to me by Tim Woolley.
Now, when talking with Dr. Murray, you asked him why he needed cardiopulmonary resuscitation device?
I did.
Did he tell you that Michael Jackson, during a performance, due to his being such a perfectionist and all the exertion that he used, really put a lot out there on the floor.
He did, in substance.
Did he tell you that Michael Jackson lost 10% of his body weight during a performance?
No, I don't recall that.
Were you aware of the fact that clothing changes by Michael Jackson, as the show went on, got smaller and smaller?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Did you?
Scope as well.
What did he say? What did Dr. Murray say he was intending to do with the portable cardiopulmonary resuscitation unit?
To have it on hand at the venue in the event of an emergency that required the use of the CPR machine for Michael Jackson.
So it was only at the stage, not in where he was rendering medical services for Michael Jackson?
That's right. That was my understanding of what he was saying to me.
There was never any negotiation by Dr. Murray between you and him regarding the $150,000 per month.
Other than the refund provision I spoke about, you are correct.
Okay. Now, this $150,000 per month, you've represented a lot of entertainment personalities, haven't you?
Not really. I represent promoters, and as a consequence of that, I represent promoters in litigation and deals, and in particular, live entertainment, tour agreements with a number of artists, including Michael Jackson's tour agreement. And so I really deal more on the promoter side, but I have interaction with the celebrities, managers, and attorneys.
Is it unusual for an artist to have medical personnel with him on tour?
I don't know for sure, sir. I really don't know for sure. It's unusual. It was unusual for me because I represent the promoter on the promoter side customarily and not the producer on the producer side. In this case, AEG was playing both roles.
What was Dr. Murray's explanation to you when he indicated that he also wanted to have an assistant available to assist him in providing medical services for Michael Jackson?
Well, twofold. The issue was a nurse versus a physician, and I asked why would he need a physician, and his answer was that in case he was tired or unavailable, there would be a physician, a competent medical person available to be of assistance should it be needed.
Were you aware of the hours that Dr. Murray would be providing services to Michael Jackson?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled. You may answer.
I presumed that he'd be providing services during the day.
No discussion was had with respect to the nighttime services that were necessary for Michael Jackson?
Not a hint.
Now, Dr. Murray, you asked him to provide medical records for 5 years. He told you that he'd only been his personal physician for 3 years.
Correct.
Was there any discussion as to where to get these medical records?
Objection made.
Do you understand it?
I think so.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, we talked about the need for him to get medical records from his offices. We talked about the need to gather all medical records for Michael Jackson.
Were the names of particular physicians described by you?
No, we were looking for that very information from Michael Jackson.
So you would like to have had the records from Arnold Klein?
Objection relevant.
I'm going to sustain the objection. 350, 352, beyond the scope.
Did Dr. Murray make any representations to you as to whether or not he was the only physician providing services to Michael Jackson?
No, he characterized himself as Michael Jackson's personal physician for 3 years.
Did he say that he was Michael Jackson's only physician for 3 years?
He did not.
Asked and answered.
Overruled. You may answer it.
He did not say that.
Were you aware of any other physicians other than other than Dr. Murray treating Michael Jackson?
Objection relevant.
Sustain.
Were records provided to you?
No. And to clarify, I didn't ask for the records to be provided to me. I asked that they be provided to the broker who was involved in securing the complete cancellation insurance binder.
And that's Bob Taylor?
Yes, sir. In London.
Now, this contract, which pays Dr. Murray the $150,000 per month less his insurance expenses, it was a full-time job for him, wasn't it?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustain.
Was the intent of the agreement to require Dr. Murray's full-time attention?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Was he allowed to maintain his other practices?
Objection relevance beyond the scope.
I'll overrule the objection in terms of the contract wording itself. You may answer.
I don't believe he was prohibited by the contract from doing other things at all.
The contract was terminable at the discretion of Michael Jackson at any time, wasn't it?
It was.
And so when Dr. Murray undertook these services to devote his time to Michael Jackson, he wasn't guaranteed the next month that he'd still have that job, was he?
Not at all.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Flanagan, thank you. Ms. Brazil, redirect.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.